council meeting of June 4th will come to order. Would ask that all in attendance turn off or silence your electronic devices. And as we prepare this evening to honor God and country, I would like to ask 3 heroes to approach the podium. Following our invocation this evening, in honor of the 75th anniversary of D-Day, we are privileged to have World War II Army veteran Technical Sergeant Reed Mims Mater in attendance to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Accompanying him are Vietnam veterans Army Master Sergeant Steve Culbreth and highly decorated retired Army Jack Ritter. If you gentlemen will make your way to the podium. And after our invocation, they will lead the pledge. But now if we bow, please. Father, as we embark on this evening's meeting, we acknowledge those who have been pivotal in making our community what it is today. Men of valor. This month is a time we recognize and celebrate fathers. Thank you. We thank you, God, for our dads and the many times they reflected the love, strength, generosity, wisdom, and mercy that you exemplify in your relationship with us, your children. As we prepare this week to celebrate the 75th anniversary of D-Day, we thank you for those brave heroes and all that have so gallantly served in our armed forces. Father, in this month that honors them, we thank you for those that put our needs above their own convenience and comfort, for teaching us to show courage and determination in the face of adversity, for modeling the qualities that have turned us into responsible, principled, caring adults. May we as city leaders reflect the best from those who have fed into us as we nurture and build the best for our city today and into the future. Amen. Amen. Sergeant Mater. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And it is a very small token, sir, but a very thankful city of Temple Terrace would like to give you this certificate of recognition to World War II veteran Army Technical Sergeant Reed Mims Mater. In honor of the 75th anniversary of D-Day, we pay tribute to the service and sacrifice of World War II veteran Army Technical Sergeant Reed Mims Mater, who in defense of our freedom has bravely worn the uniform of the United States. His selfless sacrifice continues to inspire us today as we work to advance peace and extend freedom around the world. Our country is forever indebted to our veterans for their quiet courage and exemplary service. Thank you for your service, sir. And for Vietnam veteran Jack Ritter.
Thank you.
And, whoops. I think I gave 2. I might have given 2. I apologize, sir. Oh, I did. I gave 2. Oh, look at I was stealing Steve Culbreth's. That is yours, sir.
Thank you.
That is yours. And I think Lori is waiting to snap a picture, so if we could look towards her.
Oh, I got you.
Oh, we're on Vietnam. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you. It was an honor having all 3 of you here this evening. Persons wishing to be heard on items not on the agenda, you may turn a form in to the city clerk, which is directly to my right. And at this time, if Imam Rashid Turner would please approach the podium. Good evening.
Good evening.
The City of Temple Terrace would like to offer this certificate of recognition for the holy month of Ramadan, which began on May 6, 2019. Muslims around the world observe the month of fasting each day from sunrise to sunset to help bring awareness to the plight of the less fortunate. The daily breaking of the fast, known as iftar, is often celebrated with community gatherings and family tidings, which is followed by evening prayer. For the followers of the Islamic faith, Ramadan, which lasts 30 days, is regarded as a time of spiritual reflection and solidarity with the less fortunate. The end of Ramadan is celebrated with Eid al-Fitr festival, which commemorates the breaking of the fast. Eid al-Fitr is an occasion marked by the sharing of sweets, gifts, family gatherings with friends and neighbors. This recognizes the month of Ramadan in our Muslim community and our neighbors. Thank you for being with us this evening, and would you like to say a few words?
Oh, yes, I would like to make a brief statement. We fasted for 30 consecutive days. Our fasting was something that we, as Muslims, followed the Quran that Allah, God Almighty, legislated for us in order to teach us self-restraint, in order that we would restrain ourselves from all types of decencies and evils, be able to practice self-control, and cleanse our souls from all types of immorality. We believe that we must love for our brother or our sister what we love for ourselves. And that's what the Islamic community around the world should stand for. Our group here in the Tampa Bay area, this is what we teach and this is what we practice. We don't believe in teaching biases toward other people based on their races, color, creed, and so on. We believe that we should accept what other people believe, and we want other people to accept what we believe. This is the universality of what the love of God really is. And I believe, and we teach the same concept, that no matter what you look like, how tall you are, how short you are, how intelligent you are, and so on, it doesn't matter. What matters is to love for your brother and your sister what you want for yourself. That's the teaching. And if all of us will get it, this world will be a better place under God. So we appreciate, as the Islamic community here in Tampa Bay and here in Temple Terrace, we appreciate y'all, the award and the gift that you are giving us. And hopefully things will continue to evolve for our community and for the other communities here in this area. Thank you.
Engineer Chris Damico, if you would please approach the podium. Ladies and gentlemen, this is our 2018 Firefighter of the Year. Good evening, Chris.
Good evening.
This certificate of recognition is presented to Chris Damico, our 2018 Firefighter of the Year. Engineer Chris Damico began his career with the City of Temple Terrace Fire Department in 2008. Within 5 years, he earned the rank of engineer and quickly became involved in nearly every aspect of the department. He is a longstanding member of the department's Honor Guard, as well as serving as the vice chairman of the Pension Board since 2013. His capabilities as a fire service professional have earned him much recognition over the years, but it is his compassion and selfless dedication to his community and fellow first responders that truly sets him apart. In 2015, Engineer Damico was instrumental in founding the Temple Terrace Firefighters Benevolent Association. Now serving as its president, Engineer Damico has helped partner the association with several local charities, including the Apple a Day Foundation, Buddy Baseball League, Tampa Fire Museum Charities, along with the annual cleanup and painting at Bonnie Bray Park. Chris, this evening we celebrate your service, and we thank you for your service. Would you like to say a few words?
Yes, I'd like to say I'm very humbled and honored to have received this recognition, and I wouldn't be able to do any of this without the support of my loving wife and family at home. They are what make me who I am today. Also want to thank my fellow firefighters and fire administrative staff for their continued support throughout the years. They're always very supportive of our ideas, and they're very progressive in making this one of the best departments to work for. Lastly, I'd like to thank our citizens and elected officials and everybody working behind the scenes that make this a wonderful place to work, whether it's a city garage, public works, human resources. Thank you so much for your unparalleled support for your first responders, and thank you for everything that you do for us.
Thank you. And next, if Corporal Adam Lebovitz would step forward, and as he comes forward, I will ask Chief Albano, Emily, Kyla, and Kinley to also approach the podium. Ladies and gentlemen, this is our Police Officer of the Year. Corporal, the certificate of recognition is presented to you this evening. It's the 2018 Thomas L. Lewis Police Officer of the Year Award. Corporal Adam Lebowitz's job performance in the year 2018 was nothing short of outstanding. Along with his supervisory duties, Adam consistently strived to be one of the most productive members within our agency. His self-initiated field activity was unrivaled month in and month out, making him the leader in most proactive enforcement statistical categories. In addition to serving on the department's SWAT team, he serves as the liaison to Mothers Against Drunk Driving, compiles departmental stats, volunteers to train new officers, and generates operations plans for traffic enforcement initiatives. Corporal Lebovitz strives to help those in distress, such as assisting a homeless person to find shelter on a cold night, or paying out of his own pocket to help a destitute individual have a warm meal. Corporal Lebovitz has consistently distinguished himself throughout his career with the Temple Terrace Police Department, receiving many additional awards and commendations, including the 2011 Lee McGehee Police Officer of the Year Award from the Florida Police Chiefs Association. This evening, we honor Corporal Lebovitz for his service to our community. Thank you, sir. Would you like to say a few words?
I'd just like to thank you all for allowing me to be here today. I'd like to thank the Chief, Chief Albano. 2011, he took a chance on me, gave me a badge and a set of car keys and set me loose on this town, and tried to make him proud every day. Lastly, I'd like to thank my wife, Emily. She's made many sacrifices, many lonely nights at home without me, so I could thank her for always supporting me.
Very nice. Thank you. Next, if Garden Club President Sharon Gaskin would please approach the podium. President Gaskin, this proclamation is presented to honor National Garden Week. Whereas gardeners have a passion for nurturing the beauty and resources of the earth through the planting of seeds, the care of all plants, and the riches of their efforts, and gardeners seek to add beauty, splendor, fragrance, and nutrition to our lives through the growing of herbs, vegetables, foliage, and flowers. And whereas gardeners advocate the importance of all creatures, large and small, that share our world in their roles in a balanced, productive ecology. And gardening furnishes a challenging and productive activity for our citizens, for those just learning as well as those having years of experience. And whereas gardening enables members of the Temple Terrace Garden Club to make a difference in the community where they reside and work, now therefore I, Mel Gerardo, by virtue of the authority vested in me as mayor of the city of Temple Terrace, Florida, do hereby proclaim the week of June 2nd to the 8th as National Garden Week. President Gaskin, would you like to say a few words?
Thank you. First of all, for the Garden Club, all its members and myself, we want to thank you for this recognition. Our club has had a very beneficial partnership with the city of Temple Terrace since 1946, when some city fathers first asked a little group of wives and mothers in the community if they would help them to beautify and maintain an area in the city. And so that almost 75-year tradition continues today. And we're very proud of that. In this coming week, actually tomorrow at the library, there will be 2 activities that are free and open to the public. In the morning at 10:30 at the library, there will be a floral arrangement, a flower arranging class that anyone is welcome to come to. And then at 3:30 in the afternoon, there will be a children's activity, arts and crafts, and reading aloud. Again, all of this in honor of National Garden Week. So I hope that maybe some members of the council, mayor, someone could come and join us at the library tomorrow. It's going to be a fun day. So, okay.
It will be. Thank you. And next, if Stephanie Costello of the U.S. Institute Against Human Trafficking would please approach the podium.
Can I give you all some information?
Oh, absolutely. Thank you, Stephanie. And Stephanie, as you are aware, Temple Terrace is committed to going beyond this simple proclamation. We had an extended visit and meeting, and Temple Terrace doesn't want to be just a city or a community that has yaption around this topic. We are committed to taking action. I know you have already worked with Chief Albano and his team in training. We are continuing with citywide training in this regard. So we thank you for the skills, the talents that you're bringing to our community to make it safer for all of our residents. So this proclamation, whereas human sex trafficking is a form of modern-day slavery and occurs when an adult child is recruited, harbored, obtained, or exported through force, fraud, or coercion for the purposes of sexual exploitation. And whereas human sex trafficking continues to increase throughout Hillsborough County, Florida, and the United States, and is second only to the illegal drug trade in terms of the speed of its growth and being among the most lucrative, and whereas human sex trafficking significantly threatens the safety and well-being of child victims, some as young as infants, and often coming from the foster care system, as well as vulnerable adults being purchased, as well as the families of buyers, legitimate businesses in our communities. And whereas, because it is known that targeting sex buyers is a pragmatic, effective way to reduce demand within the commercial sex industry. Now therefore, I, Mel Gerardo, by virtue of the authority vested in me as mayor of the city of Temple Terrace, do hereby proclaim June 4th, 2019 as National Human Trafficking Awareness Day. Stephanie, we are delighted to be partnering with your organization. Would you like to say a few words?
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you, Mayor, and the city council members of Temple Terrace for declaring Temple Terrace a trafficking-free zone. Excuse me. Close it down, please. Close it down. It helps keep all of our children safe, to keep a focus on anti-trafficking efforts. And so for those of you who don't know, I'm Stephanie. I work with the U.S. Institute Against Human Trafficking. We're headquartered here in Tampa, Florida. And we have a safe home for underage males here in Central Florida for males ages 10 to 17 who have been victimized or exploited in commercial sex trafficking. A huge misconception in the United States is that trafficking doesn't happen here, or that if it does, it looks a very certain way with a very certain type of population. And so it's steps like this, declaring cities, businesses, organizations, churches, schools, trafficking-free zones, that helps to dispel some of those myths. So the International Labor Organization in 2017 reported that there were an estimated 40.3 million victims globally of human trafficking. For sex trafficking specifically, the number comes in at 4.8 million victims. And that's just of cases and reports that they have identified. And as we all may suspect, the crime of human trafficking is very under the surface, very difficult to identify. In the United States, Florida consistently ranks third in the nation for the number of calls made to the National Human Trafficking Hotline and for the number of cases made for human trafficking. And Tampa consistently ranks within the top 3 or 4 regions in Florida for the same two figures. And so I just say that to let everybody know that it does happen here, and it is something that we need to focus on. When we launched the Trafficking Free Zone program last year, it's focused on demand reduction. And so the focus is, how do we prevent victims from being exploited? How do we have fewer people willing to pay to have sex with trafficked victims? And that's what the focus of the Trafficking Free Zone program is. When we launched the program, we counted over a 2-month period, over 32,000 ads placed online for sex, just in Tampa Bay, just over 2 months, just from 2 websites, and there are hundreds of websites at any given time. And we know from the technology that we use that one ad can generate between 20 and 100 different responses within a few days. So if we have 32,000 ads placed, generating at a minimum 20 responses over a week's time, imagine the demand that we have for trafficked victims. And so again, I want to thank you, Mayor and City Council members, for taking this stand and implementing a zero tolerance policy against sex trafficking. The police department here is fully trained and certified on human trafficking awareness, and we just thank you for your support, and we're excited to see what Temple Terrace has in store for us.
Very good, and I'm sure that our chamber will be aligning with you, as well as other businesses in the community. I see a Rotary Club president in the audience this evening, so there are absolutely opportunities for our community to come together and really take a strong stand. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much. Go sit down and take a picture. I'm gonna take the kids out now. I'm gonna go out there with the children.
If Code Enforcement Director Tom Baroni and Code Officers Doug Allen and Jose Silva and Lori Smith, if you would please approach the podium.
Good evening.
Good evening, Director Baroni and team. This is a proclamation to recognize Code Enforcement Officers Appreciation Week. Whereas code enforcement officers provide for the safety, health, and welfare of the citizens of Temple Terrace through the enforcement of building, zoning, housing, animal control, fire safety, environmental, and other codes and ordinances. And whereas code enforcement officers are often not credited for the jobs that they do in saving lives and improving neighborhoods. And whereas every day, assisted by support and program staff, they attempt to provide quality customer service to the public for the betterment of our community. And too many times, their efforts go unnoticed, even after code compliance has been accomplished due to their efforts and expertise. And whereas code enforcement officers are dedicated, well-trained, highly responsible individuals who take their jobs seriously and are proud of their department and of the city of Temple Terrace. Now I, Mel Gerardo, by virtue of the authority vested in me as mayor of the city of Temple Terrace, do hereby proclaim the week of June 2nd through the 8th as Code Enforcement Officers Appreciation Week. Director Baroni, would you like to say a few words?
Madam Mayor, City Council members, City Manager, thank you for the kind words. It's a great job. I really, what you said, the words you just said just brings me to a tear to my eye because we all try to do a great job for the city. And I want to thank my staff. They do a phenomenal job. I'd like to introduce each one. Jose Silver is one of my inspectors in the South Zone. He's from Bullet Parkway to the river. We have Doug Allen. He's my Central Zone inspector from White Way to Bullet Parkway. We have Lori Smith. She's in the North Zone from White Way all the way up to Fletcher. And we have Tina Hecox. She's my administrative assistant. And they do a phenomenal job for the city.
They do. Yes,
So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Council, if the minutes of the May 21st, 2019 City Council meeting are acceptable, would entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Are there any corrections? All in favor, please signify with aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay sign. Thank you. Minutes stand approved. Persons wishing to be heard on items not listed on the agenda or items on the consent agenda, a 3-minute time limit will be imposed on all comments from the public. As speakers come to the podium, please state your name and city of residence. It looks like everyone is assigned to a topic. Are there any other individuals who would like to speak to items not on the agenda? Seeing none, we will move forward. Item 6A is consideration to rehear the petition for reconsideration of rezoning reclassification application RZP 18-10 for the Tooth and Foot LLC located at 13401 North 53rd Street. City Attorney Pam Shashan will introduce the petitioner's attorney.
Thank you. For an introduction, the application RZP 1810 was denied by council at the April 16th meeting, and our city code, section 12193, contemplates a petition for rehearing. It sets a deadline for filing that, as well as requiring that a fee be paid in order to do that, that notification be made to the surrounding property owners, and as well as to the people who spoke at the first hearing. Those criteria have been met by the applicant, and therefore, I believe their attorney Tyler Hudson is here in the audience to present the basis for the request for the rehearing.
Thank you, Pam. Good evening. My name is Tyler Hudson. I'm an attorney for the applicant. I know this is a somewhat unusual procedure where we're here today asking you to vote whether or not to reconsider, and there's a subsequent public hearing where that would occur. And as a result, we're not going to really buttress the record with any new evidence or any new information. We stand by the record that was presented at the original application and as well as the contents of our petition for reconsideration. We believe that, or we know that the staff supported this application. There was a finding of consistency consistency with the 2040 comprehensive plan, and it is our belief that the original finding of the board was not supported by competent or substantial evidence. To the contrary, we do believe the applicant believes that they have the ability to get this PD done, and I'm happy to answer any questions that we have, but just so everyone understands, we will make a more fulsome presentation if a second hearing is allowed by this board, but it would be a little bit putting the cart before the horse otherwise for us to go into depth here. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you. And prior to taking questions, we do have a couple members from the public that would like to speak to this. So we will have them speak, and then I will go to council and see if they have any specific questions for you.
That sounds great.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Eugenia Clark?
I'm speaking to the issue. I wasn't here at the first hearing, so I don't know what transpired there. However, I have been in that neighborhood since 1980, and historically we've had a lot of problems. And the problems were because we were first with Hillsborough County, and we approached Temple Terrace, and they also had approached us as well in terms of annexing us into Temple Terrace. And we had had so many bad experiences with the county that we wanted to avoid that and keep that from continuing to happen. So that's what we did, and we had an understanding that our neighborhood would not be encroached upon in the way that it had been in the past. So this goes back to the late 90s when we voted to enter Temple Terrace to be annexed. And so I would hope that that would continue. And once that happens, I'm afraid that that will continue to happen. And that what I'm looking for here is quiet enjoyment of my property, quiet enjoyment from my neighborhood, and not having the increase in traffic, since we already have considerable traffic in the neighborhood. And I believe that the Youngs have the right to the quiet enjoyment of their home without all of this bustle. This isn't what they bargained for either. So that's pretty much it. I imagine a lot has been said in the past, but
Thank you, Ms. Clark.
thank you.
Stephen Jaros?
Good evening, Madam Mayor and City Council. I had all kinds of, spent this afternoon, I had all kinds of, I was going, wow, yeah, knock it out. But I decided to change tactics a little bit. I focus on this paragraph in the letter. Oh, Stephen G. Jarris, 5304 East 122nd Avenue, Temple Terrace. My wife Martha and I have lived at our current residence for 35 years in the Pleasant Terrace area. And I decided to focus on this paragraph here where it basically says, in effect, if I'm paraphrasing, because the Planning Commission has approved this, case closed. It is what it is. It's all over. That's end of story. I remember when we first moved to this area, we were part of the, as the lady just mentioned, Hillsborough County. And we had numerous rezoning requests about the periphery during the first 15 years we lived there, from 84 to 99. Each time, the zoning master of Hillsborough County approved. Every time. We were told we get a letter, the zoning master approved. But we had a person who was a member of the county council, who had lived in our area, grew up in our area, and her parents lived in our area, somebody by the name of Pam Iorio. And she was familiar with our area. She knew it was pleasant. She knew it was a beautiful area. She knew it was oversized lots. She knew it was nice homes. So each time we went down there, in spite of the fact that the zoning master had approved each of these applications, we were able to, as residents of the county, present a case about our neighborhood, a neighborhood where people walk their animals and children or stand on the corners and catch the bus, and people go to work and come home, and we have nice homes. And she understood that, the county council understood that, and we were able always, in spite of the fact that this was, all these rezoning requests, or at least 4 or 5, were approved by the zoning master, which I guess is analogous now to the planning commission in Temple Terrace. They were approved, we were able to show that we are residents. And the planning commission or the county zoning master, they're not elected officials. She was elected official, you are elected officials. Elected officials are chartered with representing the people who live in that neighborhood, the area that's being addressed. And to ensure that that our opinion is respected and that our neighborhoods are maintained as residential areas, not just there until someone decides to come and make a buck off of them somehow. And so that's basically what I'm focusing on tonight. And I'll get all the mechanics. We've already talked about the drainage, the traffic, what have you. What I appeal to you is just to remember, you are the elected officials. You are to represent us. And we, as representatives, I'm the president of the Pleasant Terrace Civic Association, so I speak for myself as well as the association. We do not enjoy our plan to welcome this kind of more encroachment on our area. I thank you very much for your time.
Yes, thank you. This is for Ms. Shoshone. The original hearing that was held back on April 16th, did the council commit any kind of any kind of procedural error, or was there any kind of illegal action by what we did during the original hearing, in your opinion?
In my opinion, there wasn't any illegal action. The basis for the petitioner's request is that there was not sufficient comments made to provide reasons, substantial competent reasons, for the denial of the request. What this council is going to be required to do, either if they deny the request tonight for a rehearing, or even if they give the rehearing, eventually you all are going to have to approve a resolution that sets forth your reasons for the denial. Our code states that within no sooner than 21 days, but within 60 days after a hearing, you have to state your reasons in a resolution, and the majority has to approve that resolution. So you are going to have to articulate those reasons at some point in time. So you have to ask yourself, based on what was presented to you at the time that the application was presented and presented to you by staff, by comments from residents, and by the petitioner, do you have reasons to state in order to deny their request? Generally, when a request for a rehearing is made, there is a question as to whether there has been a mistake of fact. If there has been a mistake of fact, that could be a support for a rehearing. If somebody has made a mistake in the law, or if the whole council has made a mistake in the law, that is a reason for a rehearing. The other reason is usually if there is some sort of new evidence, newly discovered evidence that the petitioner would like to present that they were not able to have or obtain at the time of the hearing. They often base their request for a rehearing on that. So that's why Mr. Hudson was up here to present the basis for his petition. I believe it was set forth more substantially in the letter. He might want to expound on his comments a little more based on what was in the letter. I don't know whether, I'm assuming council has read it, but in case the public has not heard what these reasons are. Also, the citizens who have commented, if there is a rehearing, I hope they come back and make their comments again, but tonight, the only relevant testimony from anyone, or the only relevant comment from anybody, should be whether there should be a rehearing or not the substance of the rezoning or not. And I believe their comments were addressing the substance of the rezoning and not whether or not there should be a rehearing. So,
That's right. And so, sorry.
So we did not make a mistake.
I don't know, I'm not saying you did or you didn't. I'm not telling you whether you made a mistake. I'm saying that I don't think you did I don't believe that anything illegal occurred. But that's up to Mr. Hudson to point out whether you made a mistake in fact or you made a mistake in law. So,
As someone asking for a second hearing, I'm going to be careful about alleging mistakes. We're certainly not arguing anything illegal occurred. We are not presenting any new evidence. We are not saying that there is some aha document that wouldn't necessarily change things. We are saying that, and I don't know if I would describe it as a mistake in law, but if you look at the record, there was a lot of concern about encroachment. And I think we need to be really careful when we talk about encroachment, because we are not talking about building something over someone else's property line or a fence dispute, which you might see. There's no issue of encroachment here. There were concerns about a slippery slope, and that if you approve this, there was talk about incursions and other phrases like that, because I understand this is something that happens in other portions of the city. And that, we believe, is an insufficient basis to deny our application, that our application must be determined based on what's within the four corners of it, and concerns about the impact that an approval of our application might have on subsequent applications that may in some ways ring similar. That's not an appropriate reason, because my client has property rights as well. I mean, my client's commercial home, for lack of a better word, is there also, and the comprehensive plan is quite clear that limited commercial uses are appropriate. Now that's, I mean, under the existing zoning, commercial is appropriate. Under the R18 comprehensive plan designation, it's also allowed. The reason that we're not trying to do something of right, the reason that we're doing a PD is because at a December 14th meeting between my client and some neighbors, we heard these concerns. And what our PD is, our specific site plan is our best attempt to assuage those concerns with respect to setback, transportation, things like that. So that's why we believe the first decision was in error, and that's why we're respectfully asking for the opportunity for the rehearing, but to limit sort of what's on the field, we are not alleging that anything necessarily illegal occurred, but we are alleging that there was not substantial or competent evidence to deny our application, and there is no new evidence too. I hope that helps sort of narrow what we're talking about.
I think we had a pretty good understanding of what the neighbors could be facing if a business came closer into the neighborhood. If anyone failed to tell us everything, it could have been the petitioner. Once I got this letter, I did what I did before. I went out, I parked in the parking lot, and I sat there. Okay. So now, what I understood at the last meeting was that the chicane was going to be moved closer into the neighbors, which was not something they were interested in. But then in sitting there looking at the property, if the vehicles entering the new use of the property is not actually going to go on the street, but is going to come through the parking lot, we weren't told that. So I'm making that assumption because I was sitting there looking at traffic patterns. But that was not presented to us. So that was not something, and it might not be. I mean, I could be wrong. I'm just sitting there watching cars go into the existing building.
Yeah.
And no cars going into the neighborhood, but some cars coming out. Okay. But they were all residential cars because there's a home there now. Okay. My question would be, did you tell us everything that you could have told us to change our minds? So I guess I'm a little confused. If you can't tell us anything tonight, based on what we knew last time, I don't know that we're going to change our minds and do this again. I believe this was a unanimous vote the last time. So you might want to give us a hint. Do you have
Sure.
something
little
else
sneak
to
peek.
tell us?
I mean, there's a little bit down the rabbit hole, because I agree this is confusing that we are asking for one thing with the idea, and we had spoken about this previously, that a potential second public hearing is not going to follow immediately after that decision. That's going to be a week or two down the road. To your specific question about cross-access, I personally was not the attorney at the first hearing. I have looked at the minutes, and I believe that Ms. College described that there would be, and that is what the site plan shows, cross access between the existing building and the other, and the proposed new building. So if that helps, you're making me think that maybe there was some type of mistake of fact. I mean, the record seems to reflect that there is cross access between the parcels, that if you are at the existing building, you can get to the new proposed building without going back on 53rd Street.
I guess the question is, can you only get, so there wasn't a strong argument, is what I'm saying. I'm only observing now, okay? I have not talked to Ms. College, so I don't know. I guess what I'm getting at here, fellow council members, is that are we willing to listen again, not knowing what the arguments are going to be? I mean, that seems, is there something that prevents new arguments being made tonight? Is that the way this has to work? We have to put it back on, we have to vote to hear it again, and not knowing whether we're going to hear more evidence or not? I mean,
I certainly defer to the city attorney. I think at the risk of making this more of kind of a legal argle-bargle going in circles, that the record exists based on what happened at the first hearing, and there may be a second hearing where that record is open and reconsidered, but I think this particular meeting would not be the appropriate place for me to start dropping a lot of new evidence. I agree it's strange, and I'm not trying to say that it's not, but I think there is a self-imposed, I think a proper limitation on my ability to start putting new things into the record at this hearing, which is really procedural in nature. And I understand that limits probably the range of outcomes from it.
City Attorney Shoshone.
Mr. Hudson is not he's already stated he's not really basing his request tonight on newly discovered evidence. Whether you actually hear something a little more or different at a rehearing, that's possible. That may occur. You may hear it from staff. You may hear it from the applicant. He's basing his request on that when the council made its decision, in his opinion, they did not base it on substantial competent evidence. And the question is, why is that important? So if there's an appeal, and since there was a denial, I'm only guessing that Tooth and Foot is going to appeal the denial to the court. And when they appeal, the court can only look at certain things. One of them is whether there was due process afforded, and they were here and presented their case, so there was, my opinion is there was due process. The other thing that the court looks at is they look to see whether council's decision was based on competent, substantial evidence. And that means there has to be legal reasons for your decision. When I finally do, or staff presents to you that resolution with your reasons written down for you to approve eventually, I'm guessing that it's probably not going to use the term that you based your decision on, and that it could be a slippery slope. You know, it will be something more, more articulate than that. I don't know who said it and don't want to insult anybody who said that, but that really isn't a legal reason to base your decision on. So then the question is, were there legal reasons to base your denial? Something's going to have to go down in that resolution, and that is the document that ultimately the judge is going to examine. So based on what you heard that night, in your own minds, do you feel that you set forth legal reasons, concrete reasons for your decision? And you may not have any different reasons at the next hearing, but then again, you might. staff is considered the expert witnesses at such a hearing, and hopefully it'll be up to them to, and I believe that they did the last time, but they presented a full analysis to you for you to base your decision on, regardless of how it went.
Thank you, Ms. Shoshone. Councilman Ross.
Yes, I think I get it. I voted against this rezoning request, and since April, I've not heard anything, including tonight or in the package, that has changed my position on that at all. However, I think it's smart of us to do the easy, or not to do the easy thing, but to do the right thing here. Let's not forget that the petitioner has another appeal from us, right? Their next appeal is to the courts. If our decision was not based firmly on proper legal things, and I think we're making a big mistake by not granting this rehearing and giving them a chance to make sure that if we do this, and nothing has changed my mind, but if we do deny this, that it's based on the proper legal substantial evidence, and I'm not afraid of facts. Facts don't scare me. So, I mean, if you can present some facts that I don't know that you can, I haven't heard any indication that you can, but I'll listen. I have no fear from facts. Facts are just facts. I don't run from them just to get what I want. So, therefore, I'll move that we rehear the case on, what's June 18th? Is that what date you wanted to? So I move that we rehear the rezoning petition on June 18th.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. We do have Councilman Schisler, who has been waiting to make a comment.
Well, again, I go back to the city attorney. Have we, in your opinion, since you would be defending us and advising us on legal matters, did we give based upon our reasons and everything that's been said in our deliberation, did we do it properly? Are we defensible? Because I agree the next step's going to be to an appellate court of some description, some court of some description.
This is going to be a selfish answer because I don't like to lose anything. So if I have to defend your decision, I would rather it be based on the most well-articulated reasons for denial there possibly can be. And so, in essence, this would give you all a second chance as well to better state your reasons.
So you don't like the original reasons?
I'm not saying I don't like them, and I completely understood them, but whether they were articulated in the best legal fashion, relying on specific sections of the code that might support your reason, I cannot say that they were articulated in that way.
Thank you, Councilman Shalera.
Thank you. I personally don't like the way this is playing out. We have a legal representative on staff to guide us. If at any time this council is making a decision that is not stand strong in whatever setting, whether it be court or somewhere else, we need to be told. At the last meeting, when council is going to deny this for whatever basis, in the past, we've sat up here with different attorneys, and they've said, if you approve it, it has to be under this premise. If you deny it, it has to be under this premise. I'm not a lawyer, and I don't think anybody else up here is, so we hire certain people to guide us in certain ways. I don't like the way this is playing out. It seems very technical, and it has lawsuit all over it. Question was asked to the attorney, did we make a mistake? I can't say you made a mistake. That does not make me feel very warm and fuzzy. Mr. Hudson said, and it's technical issues, and in court, for any of you that have been in court, it's the technical issues that get you. You know that you thought it was this way, but it's really that way because of these tiny little issues that come up. First decision was an error. That's what the Mr. Hudson said. Not substantial, competent evidence. Those are all key words that you will hear in a courtroom after we spend tens of thousands of dollars. Insufficient basis. appropriate reason. I'm writing all this stuff down as I'm sitting here thinking, this is what's going to come back and haunt you. So yes, Mr. Ross is exactly on cue, that I believe that what would be in the best interest of the city is to rehear this case and have guidance on however this council feels it should go, whether it's unanimous or not. If you approve it, it's under this premise. If you deny it, it's under this premise. And then there is no more gray areas or confusion. So I strongly support the motion that's been made, and think that would be the wise move to make. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Is there any other discussion? We'll then go to a vote. All in favor of a rehearing on RZP 18-10, signify with aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay sign. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thanks for your time.
Next, a lien reduction petition for 402 Dunedin Avenue. Municipal Code Enforcement Board Chair Richard Schmidt will present the case. Mr. Schmidt.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, council members, and staff. I am here this evening to introduce the board recommendation for lien reduction for the property located at 402 Dunedin Avenue with a lien amount of $58,400 in the city versus Zoe McElwain in case number 091352 and 11-2008. This first case originated in July of 2009, and the second case originated in July of 2011. The lien reduction request was presented to the board at the May 8th, 2019 board meeting by Director Baroni. At the time the meeting came into compliance, the property came into compliance, a fine amount had accrued in the amount of $58,400. After hearing from Director Baroni, the petitioner's representative, Jesse Maruka, from the LTD Family Trust, and board discussion, the board, on the recommendation as presented by the board to the board by Director Baroni, to reduce the lien from $58,400 to $7,200. The home was purchased at foreclosure auction in 2018. By motion and a 6-0 vote, the recommendation to council is for this lien to be reduced to $7,200 with the stipulation that the reduced lien amount be paid in full within 30 days of the city council approval, or the lien amount will revert back to the full amount, $58,400. I don't believe the petitioner is here this evening. I don't see one. And Director Baroni is present. If there are any questions, I would be happy to answer.
I would ask Mr. Baroni, does staff have anything additional to add? Are there members of the public wishing to address council on this item? Seeing none, council questions? Well, if council determines that the lien reduction is appropriate, we call for a motion to approve a lien reduction in case numbers 09-1352 and 11-2008, City versus McElwain, for the property located at 402 Dunedin Avenue. Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay sign. Thank you. Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Schmidt.
Carryover business from our previous council meeting, the voluntary annexation of 8701 Elmdale Place. City Attorney Shoshone will present.
Thank you. I believe it was at the meeting of March the 19th, City Council entertained this application for a voluntary annexation. At the time, the council tabled this matter to tonight because the plan was to have a workshop with regard to annexation and to determine the council's way forward and what the council preferred to do with regard to annexations such as this one. Tonight, since it was set for the date certain, your choice tonight is to, it's essentially, it's going to be taken off the table so that you can decide what you want to do with it. I believe that the applicant had requested that, I don't believe he's here, he had requested that, although it was set for tonight for you to make your determination, he could not be here tonight and had requested that this be continued to a different, later meeting. So it's sort of picking up where you left off the last time, but there is a request for a continuance.
Thank you. Is there a motion to remove annexation 18-05 from the table?
Wait, can I ask a question first? Do you want me to just make the motion to remove it from the table so we can discuss this?
It is not
Okay.
debatable.
Pardon me?
It is not a debatable motion.
All right, would you restate the motion? Did you make the motion?
I did not make the motion. I asked for a motion, but it is not something that can be discussed. This is strictly making a determination to remove from the table and have it scheduled. It is not to get into the substance or debate the topic tonight.
Okay. Well, I do have a question, and I'd like to ask it because we got a email from the city attorney saying that there are different ways of us to do this. We either postpone it, take it, remove from the table. I mean, there are certain things. So we're removing it from the table tonight.
So that it can be
strictly so
scheduled.
that we can discuss it again at the next. Then I move that we remove this from the table.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay sign. We have one opposition. Motion does carry. Thank you. Council, is there any additional carryover business from our previous meeting? We will then move on to new business, a consideration of development proposals for community redevelopment area properties. Patrick Berman of Cushman Wakefield will introduce developers to present their projects. Patrick.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and City Council members. I'm not sure the order in which the presentations are being made. I believe that Matera Group is first. Is that correct? Okay, thank you. And if I may also, we have successfully completed 2 transactions and have a third one pending. I just want to recognize Mr. Stevenson, Mr. Pauly, and the staff at Temple Terrace who've done an outstanding job. They've worked tirelessly, they've been diligent, they've been wonderful, and these deals never have happened without their help. Thank you. So the first proposal is for 2 acres of vacant land, which is located directly in front of Winn-Dixie, fronting on North 56th Street. And there's an offer from the Matera Group. Our principal, Mr. John DiGiovanni, is here in the audience tonight and can answer your questions. The offer is at $1.8 million, which is 90% of full asking price. Mr. DiGiovanni is a very experienced, qualified developer, 25-plus years in the business. He was president of Inland Atlantic, which is a major REIT. Also was a senior executive with BVT Institution, which is one of the top developers in the country. I know he personally has developed over 1.5 million square feet of commercial space, so he's a highly qualified individual. And the proposal, I believe, is in front of you.
Madam Mayor, City Council members, City Manager, City Attorney, and staff, good evening. My name is John DiGiovanni. I represent the Matera Group in the offer made for the 2-acre parcel at 56 and Bullard in what is known as downtown Temple Terrace. Would you...
Can you bring the map up, please?
Yes, thank you. The 2-acre parcel is denoted there on the aerial. It's the greenest piece. Catty-corner to the Winn-Dixie and across from the larger, I believe, multifamily parcel on the site. It fronts 56, but does not go to the intersection of Bullard. That's a separate parcel, which you well know. You can go to the presentation now. We made our proposal for $1.8 million for the 2-acre parcel, and we propose a retail mixed-use development for the parcel to bring in community-oriented retail that will enhance livability, workability, community, and pedestrian traffic on the site. And I think I have a little pointer. I had a pointer. Oh, somebody moved it. Got it. So we term this Temple Terrace Retail Village. The focus, again, is on community retailing, providing for a gathering space, and people can meet and join and enjoy the amenities of the area. Again, the site is 2 acres. We propose building approximately 24,000 square feet of space, and we have shown here a modern design, very contemporary design that I'll show you in a minute. We do understand that there's more of a Mediterranean feel to the project. We don't have any objection to looking at modifying the design, but we feel a mix of design and architectural features actually makes it more interesting than having it all in Mediterranean. This is a site plan for the 2-acre parcel, street front retail, and parking behind it facing the interior roadway, and the Winn-Dixie would be directly bottom left of that site. It's not a very complicated site to do. It's fairly straightforward. This is the concept design that we've come up with. It's, as I said, very contemporary, clean look, providing a different look from the other structures that are there to give it a more interesting and appearance and more interesting to the community. Again, this is another angle of that modern look. And again, we're perfectly willing to work with staff, the city manager's office, and if there's a modification of design that we think better fits the environment, we're certainly open to taking a look. So some of the recent developments we've done, I hesitate to bring it up, but we were actually part of the original Temple Terrace retail development, which was the Winn-Dixie Retail Centers. Just to be clear, we were not the master developer. We were the equity partner in the deal, and that was the extent of our involvement. Some of the other things we've done are Chase Bank in Chamblee, Georgia, which we just completed, Burger King, actually here in Tampa, on Hillsborough across from the Hard Rock. We have a development in Midtown Atlanta we're working on, and we've done multiple Starbucks and Verizon deals. The Matera Group actually is not part of the larger companies that I've been with. It is a smaller private investment firm that does smaller, 20, 24,000 square foot sort of developments. So this is the Chase Bank we did in Chamblee, Georgia. It was actually was a very small site, 0.5 acres, and we were able to get the bank, which was roughly 3,500 square feet on the site, and park it on the site. And you see the upper left photograph is what it was before, which was an abandoned gas station that had been there for 40 years. So we're well versed in taking properties that have been sort of neglected or need a little TLC and redeveloping those sort of sites. In fact, that's our preference. This is the Burger King we did in across from the Tampa, and next to that will be a Popeyes, which is going to start construction next week. And that was, and if you know the area directly to the left of that photograph would be the Wawa at the corner Orient and Hillsborough. So that's a modern, that's their most current prototype, and Popeyes will be doing the same thing. And we understand in this particular situation that drive-throughs are not accepted, so we will take that obviously into consideration. This is a deal we're working in Midtown Atlanta. It's the acquisition of some older structures and a parking lot in which we plan to do a mixed-use, high-rise office and retail. In fact, it's a food hall. And the hospital, if you can see in that one picture to the right there, is directly across the street from us. And it houses 550 beds, about 3,000 employees, and an office tower that is occupied by independent physicians. And so we plan to accommodate, affordable housing for the people who work at the hospital, as well as providing amenities for those people in terms of the food hall and affordable dining. Many, not to get off on another tangent here, but many of these developments are geared towards very high-end, chef-driven sort of food halls. And if you're a nurse working at the hospital, you're not wanting to spend $20 every day for lunch. So we take that into consideration, and we've done a number of projects where we accommodate more affordable and what we call moderately priced. So the Matera Group is consistent of 4 individuals. 2 of them happen to be my sons. And we focus on these smaller development projects, Florida and Georgia. We have, as Patrick said, 25, maybe going on 30 years of retail and mixed-use development experience, and we feel very comfortable with the area. I know the market. We were involved in the original redevelopment of that property. I've always had a continued relationship, conversations with Mr. Stevenson, city manager, and I've always expressed my interest in continuing some involvement in the redevelopment of downtown Temple Terrace. And that concludes the presentation, and I'll take any questions.
So I really like the Midtown project. So what is the elevation of, how high, is this a single-story building that looks like a 2-story building, or is there a good chance we could get 2 or 3 stories out of you?
You mean here at Temple
Yes,
Terrace?
right.
Well, that would be bigger than what we had anticipated, obviously. We feel that it's, we feel it's a place where we can create a sense of community, a sense of gathering. I don't know that demographically, and we haven't even spent any time looking at, but I don't know that demographically it warrants anything more than that, to be honest. The worst thing you can do is build more. There was an old saying somebody taught me a long time ago. It's better to build 10,000 square feet that's 100% occupied than 20,000 square feet that's half occupied.
And understood.
Yeah.
You know, we are always encouraging growth from USF to come in our direction. So I just had to ask, I really couldn't tell because you said you didn't really flesh out your design. So many of our buildings now are looking like 2-story, but they're single-story.
Right.
So if this is going to be medical office, would it still be a single-story?
Well, we would presume that, but we have not contacted or talked to or had serious conversations, let me put it that way, with retail users or medical users at this point. They're the ones that determine what happens. So if we got someone who came along and said, look, we want to do the site, we want a 2-story building, then guess what? We're coming back here saying, hey, this folks would like to do a 2-story building.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. I like the fact that you've kept us in your back pocket and that you came back.
Well, thank you. Appreciate that.
Councilman Ross.
Good. Well, thank you very much for your presentation, by the way. It's very well done, and thank you for your interest in staying in Temple Terrace and working with us, so thank you. So I'm glad to hear that you had some history with the property and understand what it is that we're trying to do down there. And
Sure.
I'm looking at the map slide. One of the things that we're trying to do is to emphasize Main Street as a main street, to try to draw people off of 56th and make that Main Street kind of the focal point or a focal point. Is that something, which is a challenge, I understand that, because a building's got to have a front and a back. I know the challenge that Burger King went through when they built that, trying to make 4 fronts on the building, and is this site, in your opinion, amenable to doing something that can still emphasize Main Street? Can you do something, or is it strictly going to be backed up against 56th Street and then the cars park off of Main Street, so what you have on Main Street is pretty much a parking lot? I'm just trying to figure out, in my mind, is there a way to make this site emphasize the feel that we're trying to generate for that Main Street?
Well, again, there is that possibility. The users are all going to be drivers. Now, when we were here originally, we knew that Starbucks was interested, which I think is going on the corner. Banks were interested. We know Panera was interested. We know that there were walk-in medical clinics interested. Now, Panera would change sort of the dynamic of it, because that building that was facing 56 might turn the other way, facing actually the parking lot of Winn-Dixie, and actually have 2 fronts with outdoor seating. So the retail tenants are really the drivers of how that lays out. Now, what we've shown you is all conceptual. I mean, not knowing who the end user is going to be sort of limits our ability to be more creative.
Councilman Schisler.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. The great presentation. Thank you for the interest in the property. That's a question for staff. Has anybody had an opportunity to do any TIF projections in the future? What's this going to, given what we've got with this particular piece, where are we going to potentially end up?
We have not done that, no.
Okay.
Councilman Shalera.
Thank you. This is Giovanni. I do have a couple questions. Number one, thank you for expressing an interest and participating in the bidding process. Based on your comments, I can tell that you do have experience, because some of the things that you say, sometimes folks sit up here and they want to see Disneyland. Unfortunately, the market dictates if Disneyland's going to go there or not. And your comment a little while ago, he says the retail tenants will sometimes dictate the layouts, which is very true. That's why I know the guy in the corner's had some challenges as to where it's going to go, where it's going to face. It's not as easy as we think it is, because you deal with them firsthand.
Well, and I appreciate that you acknowledge that.
But this has been this city's problem for the last 15 years. They've wanted to see Disneyland. The market does not dictate Disneyland at that location, okay? We're here. Most folks want to be here. We're probably going to be somewhere in here, okay?
Right.
Once we realize that, and I think this council and a lot of the residents has finally realized that, okay, market demand will dictate what goes there. And if you don't want to listen to it, then it's going to sit vacant the way it's sat for the last God knows how many years. Okay, I do have a couple of questions for you. And as far as asking if it's first 1-story, 2-story, 3-story, the more that the developer can put there, the more money they're going to make within reason.
Right.
As you said, the example you gave, 10,000 full or 20,000 half full, it's a perfect example, because that goes for parking availabilities and all the above. You got to have enough parking to accommodate your uses and so forth and so on. So the way you have explained your presentation tells me that you know what you're talking about, and you're not coming in here with this big pie in the sky. So I appreciate your sincerity as far as that goes.
Thank you.
The initial deposit on your proposal, I didn't see where. Would that be distributed within 2 days of execution of the contract, within 5 days? I don't see, I just see initial deposit, additional escrow. I don't see breakdowns as to when that's gonna, normally, and you know this better than most of us, deposit is given within 3 to 5 days of executing of the contract.
Correct.
And then the additional deposit is done at the end of the inspection period.
That's correct.
Okay, so I would assume that this structure is going to sort of be based in that manner, because I didn't see that explanation here.
Yeah, you assume correctly.
Okay, all right, I just wanted to put that on record. I would like I would be more comfortable, speaking for myself, to have actual timelines in place. I don't want to base it on a site plan approval. Because if the site plan goes back and forth, or you're given ridiculous proposals, you can buy time that way. Normally, you contract the property, you have 120 days of an inspection due diligence period, which is reasonable. And then a lot of times it can close 60, 90 days. After that, it closes. At that time, you're trying to secure your tenants, whatever you're trying to do. I get all that. I understand that, and that's reasonable. I'm not comfortable with closing upon receipt of a site plan and governmental approvals, because that's very broad. I would like a timeline in place, dates, because then there's a fire, behind you, say, I got to get this done. This is my timeline. You're going to know what we want. We're going to know what you want if it's being realistic. The one proposal, the ones we've done in the past have timelines, have actual dates. They're not by site plan approvals. As long as you present something that is in line, give or take a little something here and there, in line with what you've presented to us, there's no reason that it's not going to get approved. I mean, if you show us a tower on the corner or a nice fountain, and you come in and there's no tower, we're going to say, this is like the feature. Where's your tower at? That's going to buy you time. You're going to go back and forth. We don't want to get into that. We want to flush it all out up front. I want to be fair to you, but I want to make sure we're fair to the city. So I would like for you to consider possibly considering having a timeline in place, because it said due diligence. You put 120 days due diligence. Sure. That's within reason, normal, give or take some time. And then following execution of a purchase and sale agreement, which you're going to sign the agreement first. You can have your inspection period. We're good. And then on permitting period, buyer to submit site plans for approval 100 days following the effective date. That's the permitting period. Then we have the closing upon receipt of site plan and governmental approvals. I don't feel comfortable. I want a box. I want to know, I want a time frame where I know this time, 120-day inspection, and then we're going to close, and within that time, during your inspection period, you can work with staff, make sure you guys are on the same page. This is the elevation I want. This is what I want to do. Sounds good. If you get some kind of heartburn where it's not going to work, you can back out. Obviously, within that due diligence period, you can back out for any reason. If the sun don't shine, you can back out normally if it's structured properly, as we all know that. So I would like to see, I'm not so much concerned with the size of the building, because I know you're going to try to do as much as you can within reason to market that property. I also would like to mention that, again, in the past, we said we don't want this, we don't want that, we don't want the other. If we make it too difficult, nobody's going to come.
That's true.
The Burger King owner, he said, I'll never do business in Temple Terrace again, because one council member in particular drove the man crazy. Okay, that's the only design of Burger King like that, at least in Florida. It might be in the country. And he went above and beyond. And that's not the message we want to give you or anybody else. We want to work with you. We want you to say, man, those folks at Temple Terrace were awesome. Let me do another project. That's what I would like to see, and I'm sure the rest of the folks up here would like to see that as well. You said, well, we can't do drive-throughs. It doesn't permit it. Well, maybe it does. I don't want that to be a deterrent if you have a very desirable user. I think the guy in the corner wants a drive-through, and maybe he may get one. If it's a desirable use, if you bring somebody that is attractive, that can really complement that corner of 56 and Bush, I'm sure that this council and its residents are going to give you some consideration.
Well, and we appreciate that, but that actually goes to our condition of site plan approval, because if we have certain restrictions going in, but then we get a quality tenant that comes along and says, well, I really would like a drive-through, then I come back to you and I can't get the drive-through, then we lose that tenant.
I got it.
So, I understand that you want some certainty to the conclusion of the process. We want certainty to that process as well, and our certainty is a site plan approval.
I get it.
So there's a little bit of trust on both sides that has to happen. We're going to move as quickly as possible. We have the 120-day due diligence. We have 100 days to get you a site plan, and that's our trigger. So we're going to be over there concurrently during both the due diligence period and the 100 days. So in 220 days, we're going to try to line up all our tenants. So when we come to you with a site plan, it's going to be vetted out, or hopefully it's vetted out. And we can say, these are the users and our retailers.
And I understand what you're saying, but I certainly like safeguards in place, because the financial burden's on us. If you need more time, we're paying the mortgage every month. We're covering that property every month. So if you need more time because you need this tenant or you need that tenant, and we keep going back and forth, I'm not saying you're going to do this, but some people buy time by playing the game. And I don't mean that you're going to do that, but you know how it works. Then maybe there needs to be, more deposit put up, and then we'll give you more time. But I'm just trying to talk out loud with you. We want to encourage you to move forward, but we don't want to be locked up in this marriage that ain't going to go nowhere because you want, you propose, but you ain't tying the knot.
Right.
So, just gotta, I need closure. That's what I'm trying to say.
No, we like to get that knot tied too, but.
I get it. We've just had bad experience in the past.
Yeah, my fear is that somewhere along the way, we never get to tying the knot. So.
I get it.
I need that site plan approval in order to make sure that.
Well, I would suggest if the council decides to move forward, that maybe you and Mr. Berman and Mr. Stevenson can try to work on something that can make all of us comfortable. Does that sound fair and reasonable?
That's reasonable. I think we can have that discussion, presuming that there's an approval, to work that through the contract, and see if we can come up with something that all parties can agree to.
Okay, aside from that, I think it's a great presentation, and I'm certainly, speaking for myself, in favor of moving forward with yours, but we'll have to wait and see what the rest of the council members say.
Would you like to make
Thank
that
you.
motion? Councilman Schisler.
Yes, I don't think that there's really much more we can discuss. I'd like to make a motion to accept. I'd like to make a motion to accept the Matera Group offer contingent upon negotiations with Mr. Berman and Mr. Stevenson to put some of these time certains in there so that everybody's comfortable with it. We have to approve it again anyway. We'll have to see it, we'll see it again for final approval. But I'm looking forward to working with you on this.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
I second that motion. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion, council? All in favor, please signify with aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay sign. Thank you. Motion.
Well, I'm sorry, could I just get clarification? And that's for staff to move forward and,
Yes, to do the negotiations, to come back with time certains, so that we have another chance to approve.
yes, sir, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your time.
Yes, thank you. I was remiss previously on the question of the taxes. We estimated $60,000 a year for Mr. Di Giovanni's development. Upon completion, the taxes paid on that development will be approximately $60,000. Next presentation is from the Enigma Group. And Mr. and Mrs. Singh are here in the audience tonight to make a presentation and answer your questions. The Singhs recently acquired the property adjacent north, 25,000 square foot building. So their development would be unified. They'd have the north and the south portion of the property and could do a comprehensive unified development there. The proposed investment is upwards of $4 million into the property, which is 1.74 acres. The proposed uses are 2 freestanding restaurants, and in the back, hotel, apartments, or additional retail. Estimated taxes generated would be at least $50,000, up to $75,000 per annum if they build a hotel or more density in the back. And I believe the total size is roughly 25,000 feet. But the Singhs are here if they'd like to answer your questions. Please.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and City Councils. I made this big letter just to explain my details, but I guess in the CRA and Mr. Patrick Berman was very nice in explaining, and I did hear the concerns of the council in moving forward with this proposed project. As you're aware, we have already acquired the south portion of the parcel, and this is the other side of the parcel to make it one size up. I will straight go to the presentation, and we can discuss further. So we are proposing at the moment $600,000 as purchase price towards this 1.63 acres land. And we have, there was one of the concerns that what is the time frame period we're looking at? There is a time frame period. We are asking for 180 days of due diligence and a total of 265 days of complete closing. These are long number of days because the property the property what we acquired before already had an existing structure, and it was just remodify that structure. This structure is basically we would have to remove the old existing building, and we have multiple approaches at the moment what we can do with the land. Of course, we have our first choice was to build a hotel there, as it can be in good demand there, with 2 eatery joints, drive-ins. I was being told that drive-in has some concerns, so we can always shift that to a sit-down restaurant or a takeaway joint. So as I had done this presentation before also last year, and just to explain what we have done before in India, and this is our first project in US, and moving forward with the old one, which is already to most probably we want to start by mid of July and finish it by October. Our last presentation was October, and we did mention that we would like to have it completed within 1 year's time, and I think we will achieve that target. Okay, in this project, there's a $50,000 cost to demolish the old structure, and then there's a scope of work we are looking at to build a wall, which now on the backside of the property there's a pond. The last meeting I was here, and one of the council members did mention that if we can do something about the pond and beautify it, which will give enhancement to the whole downtown and also to the property. So it's both sides. We are looking at an $800,000 expense. Now this was the completed project, but let me just go straight. The place in the gray area at the backside of the pond that's what we're looking at, filling it up, making a whole wall, a walkway passage. If I will take it close, this is also we put the guardrails for safety, and this is the proposed hotel we are looking at. This is as we go into due diligence and within 180 days we'll come to know what exactly we'll be building. Will it be a hotel? If not, it will be a plaza, a strip mall plaza. So this is the raised wall we are talking about. It is nearly 12 feet by 500 feet in size. And then we would have to, of course, fill the whole area at the backside and pave it completely for the parking area. This is what we are proposing. Now this investment is actually, we have a choice not to do this. This is only proposed. If it is the reason to quote low, as CRA meeting we were discussing, was low because this exactly the gray area is costing us over $800,000. Now we have kept our prices low. It may increase, it may decrease, but this is what was assumed that we will be spending on. We have been told by our builders it will take it easy about 400 to 500 truckloads to fill, and just to easy maths would be, it's $150,000 of only landfill we're looking at. And then there's a wall, there's guardrails, there's a walkway, and all that paving, which is going to cost. Now, of course, this is proposed, and that is the reason we are looking at where the money is being spent. Now, in the CRA, the council members had the address that Mr. Patrick Berman had mentioned that the $50,000, what we are asking from the city to be in that project as one of the compensation or one of the co-sharing partners, just to use that 50,000. If it is that Mr. Berman had proposed that if we leave that out and bid our higher, if we demolish it on our cost, and if we change our bid from $600,000 to $650,000 to if we build the wall and the existing patch, we agree to that one. If there's any questions from your side. Basically to build that patch is very required for us also, because that gives us a lot of parking. Now, getting parking is where you can expand your structures. You can expand more square footage. So that is also we had proposed. That it will beautify the whole place. Looking at the entrance of the downtown will give it an enhanced look, more than on the backside of the property too. Now, also, we have multiple cars being parked on a property. The people who are coming to post office parks on the whole, right now, there's no development. And everybody is parking there, so that means, there's a shortage of parking. Now, even though we put up a plaza, we cannot tell anybody, oh, do not park here, or we'll wreck it. Also, there can be a board, but nobody physically does it. The better way is to, increase the parking area, which will benefit the whole of the city. I would, with the permission of the council, I would like to also propose, if they do not wish that we build the whole beautification of the pond area with the wall and expansion, we don't mind raising our proposal from 650 to 750. It's just an offer. But for us to build both the properties side by side will take less amount of infrastructure as compared to building one and then coming back to another one. So if we are able to close this deal now, it will just give us the benefit that we start work all together. Even with the old proposed, our due diligence, our payment method, we close it before time. So the motive is to start working on it. Now, I'm open for questions.
Councilman Donahue.
So let me make sure I understand.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't put up the wall,
We can go up to
you
750.
can go up to 750.
Yeah.
And what is the real benefit of the wall to you or perceived to for us?
The benefit of the wall is that it will give us over 150 more car park. So that is a part of the pond, which is easily accessible, and it is doing nothing at the moment. We just have to landfill it, put the wall, and pave it. So that is the benefit we will get. To the city, it's the whole backside of the property. It is right now in a bad shape. Everything would be maintained. It would be taken care of, which will give definitely a better look. And that's what we're
Right
looking
now,
at.
it's a retention pond. But
Yes.
we're trying to make it into a feature, right?
Yes,
Correct.
yes. So, and also, there's a easy walkway now, which will take people from Indexy side to the garden side. That's an easy, guardrail area that we have made from one side to another side. So the passage is not only to the constrained area of that side, but all the way starting. If I can go back on the presentation. The top view will give you that. So where the raised wall is written, right there, the white, it's the passage going from one corner to the other corner. So it's street to street. So that will also give access for people to go around from this side of the property to that side, to use the garden, which belongs to the city, I guess.
But if you don't put the res wall, what will be there?
Nothing. We just leave
just-
to our,
Just grass?
yes,
And
what it is now.
some parking, but, right.
No, then it wouldn't be feasible for us to go, because it's not that we can, if you will see, the parking is only on the end side of the wall.
Yes.
So in between is only the driveway. So then it wouldn't make sense to come all the way. It makes sense to come out 50 feet, so we get 20 feet of parking and about 25, 30 feet of driveway.
Councilman Schisler.
Thank you, Madam. Good presentation. I like the concept. The again, going back to the wall, there'll still be access around to the back end of the, maybe steps down to getting out
Yes.
to the pond area?
Yes, completely.
Okay. I
From
think
what-
that the concept is a good one. I'm willing to work with the developer on this type of situation so that we can, it seems to be a good investment for the city. Looking at your site plan, I know it's not a site plan, but your elevation, the additional property augments your original purchase quite nicely, opens up a lot more opportunities that you'll use all four sides of your building so that people will be a natural attractor to the other side of it. I do like the concept. I do like the, I wish it was a little bit more money, but I understand that, and it'd be a bit of a sharing on the improvements to the back. And if the improvements work the way they're designed, I think that's going to be something that's going to be quite nice back there, and it'll open up that whole area for everybody else to work back there. But again, I defer to the legal people for the dates and so forth. I would, I think it's a good project, and I like this concept.
Other questions, comments? Councilman Ross.
Thank you for your proposal and your interest, and thank you for the other project that you're doing as well. I'm with Councilman Schister. I like the wall. We're Temple Terrace wall. We're talking about.
We can always market Temple.
Yeah, I like the wall. I like that idea, and I like gaining that pedestrian way to take you from River Hills up to Cash and Carry.
Yes.
It also promotes your business because they're walking right by your shops and stuff. So I think that's a great concept. So I like that. You kind of answered the only question I noticed when I was reading this. Is the construction of 2 new drive-through restaurants. You kind of alluded to that a little bit. And this is not, don't read more into what I'm saying than what I'm saying. I'm not saying this is etched in stone or you're never going to get through us if you know, I don't mean any more than what I actually say. But I think most of us would not be in favor of a, McDonald's kind of thing down there. I mean, what we're trying to build is a field of places where people go and they walk around, they hang out, they go in, they eat. Not so much a McDonald's or
Definitely, we can work with that. The motive is to develop both the properties together. I can sit down with the city manager and, we can propose, and then whatever is required. It's not a McDonald's we can look at. We are looking at the moment, Chick-fil-A to come up on that side of the property. So that's the one we are proposing to. Now, it definitely, as our previous presenter did discuss, it all depends upon market.
Yeah, I know.
How we take it and leave it.
That's why I don't want you to read more into what I say.
Yes.
But what we're trying to do is not so much pull in off of 56th and run through the drive-through. And, that we're trying to create a space where people go, hang out, spend time.
Yes.
That kind of thing.
We can always work with that.
Okay, thank you.
Council, are there any other questions for Mr. Singh? Councilman Shalera.
Thank you. Obviously, I don't know that it'd be appropriate for us to even make any decisions, recommendations until we hear the other presentation. But a couple comments I've made. Number one, certainly you have led by example. You've had a previous project, and although we haven't seen any dirt turn, you closed before the timeline required you to close. That shows, very positive movement on your behalf. I don't feel strong. I'm not crazy about the price. You're a very good negotiator and businessman. I sit here and think that you've been taught very well. That wall and that additional property is gaining extreme amount of value added to your development. You will be able to lease more, you will be able to occupy more, you could possibly put a hotel in there, you're benefiting the parcel that you've already bought from the city at that price, you're getting additional land, all the above. The perks are quite advantageous to you. So I would like to see, if we were to look at you, I'd like to see some discussion between you and the broker and the city folks on some type of movement and value. That's me talking. Everybody else can speak for themselves. but there's a lot of value added to the property owner. I don't know what that amounts to, but it's, if you put it in property value, that's quite a good piece of property there. The probability of that being a hotel is not very probable unless you tear that wall down and add all that additional parking spaces. So that's value added to you, and that, if that happens, that's the points that I'm trying to allude as. You know, the property's being sold as is, the building's there. You know, I don't want to start deducting from the price. So here's the price, we're going to take this, this, and this. Well, the property's as is, based on the conditions, this is the price. But you're looking at the price and, okay, I want to take this off and this off. No, you forget about the part that says as is. That means that's the price as is.
Correct.
So that's just, you know, your intentions are great, your negotiating skills are very good, but I certainly would like to see, because there is being some, a great deal of benefit being provided to you. They're not charging you additional money for the additional land that you're acquiring by tearing the wall down and adding all those additional parking spaces. That has value. I mean, you think we can.
Can I go back on the presentation, answer you back?
Sure,
on that?
I'm looking, yeah.
All right, so
Yeah.
I just have to show you some figures that will, no, okay.
The aerial you're talking about?
Okay,
you just,
so the asking price for city was $1 million, and
Correct.
we had asked for a consideration of $400,000 as development was $800,000. The offered is $600. So what we are paying actually for the land is 1.4 now, because 600,000 is what we're offering to you. 800,000 is what we'll be spending on that land. So although, yes, we will be getting some more piece of the land, but we are actually paying for that part of the, beautifying with the city also, making that passage. That's why it is not that, yes, if you say, you know, we develop it for you, pay us $1 million, and we say, okay, go ahead, we pay the full $1 million. It is landing us 1.4 instead of 1. So if you look at the proposed cost of land to Enigma, is offered 600, proposed development is approximately 800,000. So approximately what we are looking at the land is 1.4 instead of 1 now. So we are paying exactly now the property on the other side, which already had an existing building and everything, we got it for 1.5. And now this land, which is smaller the size with no building on it, you know, it would be about the same price.
yeah, but what you forgot to put is the value added because of the additional wall that's being put in. The asking price is $1 million.
Yes.
You've negotiated down to 600,000. When that property is being marketed, it wasn't being marketed with that additional space in the back. That's something you added after the fact. So the $1 million is just for the piece of property. Then you've taken the property down, saying it's going to cost as much to build. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and negotiate with you.
We can
I
debate
know
on that
where
one.
you're going.
The
I
land
got it. I
behind
got it.
has no value until it's made.
I just wanted to
So that's the
shed
thing.
value that we both know what time of day it is. So
No, see-
just want to just try to move forward. But
yeah.
I commend you for your presentation, and it's certainly attractive. Okay, no, I have nothing negative to say about it. It certainly would enhance that area, and something for the city to consider. Whatever development goes here, there's going to be a problem that's going to have to be dealt with the post office, because those cars are all going to be being parked over here, and there's going to be, you know, serious issues that, you know, but that's a different story for a different day, especially if all this happens, because I can assure you there'll be towaway signs posted there. Cars will be towed, and it just won't be nice. But that's a different discussion.
Being the next door property, like, you know, because although I wouldn't mind people parking there, because eventually they will, see, the reason being is to expand that area is the post office people can also park there, because once they park there, of course, they're going to come into the eateries, they come into the mall, they buy something. It's a two-way.
I get it. I get it.
Of course, we have to look into it, but
I'm in the business too. You don't mind as long as your tenants don't complain to you. If your tenants
Yes.
complain to you, then you're going to mind.
Yes.
You know, so I get it. I mean,
I
more
understand.
power to them. But once your tenants start complaining, we have nowhere to park, you're going to enforce the parking issues. But I mean, all I'm saying is it's an attractive proposal. It
Thank you.
certainly enhances the area, and you know, when the time comes, I certainly would like to see Mr. Berman and Mr. Stevenson and yourself try to work on some of the comments that have been made. As far as your structure, I think your timelines are in place. You've already shown by example that the timelines, as soon as you can get in and get started, the the better it is for you. So I'm not too worried about that. And you're actually, deposits are higher than the previous person, and your purchase price is less. So you're showing very good faith efforts in order to move forward. So I certainly can appreciate that. But I don't have anything further, but I certainly thank you for explaining everything in detail.
Thank you. And Mr. Berman, if you'd like to introduce our next proposal.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Yes, so the third proposal tonight, thank you. Third proposal tonight is made on behalf of Tampa Investment Holdings, a principal owner being Mr. Bassem Ali. And Mr. Ali is a very prominent, successful business owner in Tampa Bay, has many years of experience in development, and owns many different businesses. So certainly has the capability to develop the property. I wanted to mention the timeline, which has been a recurring theme tonight. Mr. Ali's present proposal is to close the deal 75 days following contract execution. So that's 2.5 months. It's very quick, expedited closing. The price, however, is $550,000 offered, which is 55% of the asking price, although it is an as-is, where-is deal. Proposal is to build 20,400 square feet at a cost of approximately $3 million. Mix of uses, including retail, restaurants, office, medical uses. There's a very attractive water feature and archways as part of the development. And Mr. Ali's broker is here tonight, Mr. Ahmad Barameh.
Good evening. I'm going to start with one thing. Sometimes we try to build something in our imagination, but in reality is not there. I want you to think about it. What we have in this particular project. We have 1.7 of acres. What that land looks like, it's in the back. It's an arrow, it's an easement. Underneath of it, there is a drainage water. We need to build something. It's work. It's going to be work, and it's going to make both sides working. Mean we don't need to be just think of something and not even is going to happen. So I would like to start my presentation. This is Temple Terrace redevelopment on the Indian restaurant, or there was the Indian restaurant before. Let's look next one. What do I have to do it? It's not working. This is the agenda in here. Bassem Ali, he is 25 years. He lived in Tampa Bay. He's a developer. He's a business partner with many banks, and he owns All Giant in Tampa Bay, and he is treasury for youth in Temple Terrace area. So he's one of the leader actually in Temple Terrace as of the Arab community. Bassem Ali, he's a president of and partner with Chevron worldwide. He was with Hardee's. So his ability, I don't think is going to be any question mark on it. So let's go next one. Okay. This is the structure in the area. And our target on this particular spot, what it is going to be, we try to look and get some of USF kids come down to that area, to the Temple Terrace area. So this is the zoning area, and this is tell you what's the existing building in Temple Terrace. This is the land, basically. That land used to be one piece of land and looks like it's been divided. That corner has been taken as a beauty supply. The another one as a restaurant. As you see that restaurant, this comes like more of a narrow area. So what are we buying, basically, or what you are selling in this 56 area? So right in front of it is the bus station. So the frontage of Temple Terrace of the 56 is not there. So let's move on. And what are we going to develop? You can be able to see the north of that building, which is the biggest building in the air. The north of it is the building where it used to be a dollar store. Let's be reality and see why it's failed, the dollar store. Before we go further, sometimes we have to look back to the history. Why is that business is failed? Why it's not making it? So we have to think about it, and we be able to come up with conclusion to it. So the area, that land, it's a little bit lower. It's about 4 foot lower than the road. The elevation of it, it's 4 foot. Why they did that? Because there is retention pond is behind it. That way all the water goes right through. Right behind that restaurant, if you've seen it, is more lower than the another building of the north side. So that means there is some drainage area there, so you have to dig and find before you even build. Before you be able to dig, you have to find what's in that particular land. So the frontage we know is not usable because it's narrow. So it's good for a parking, but it cannot be built in the front. If you see, there is 2 buildings. Did you see that building right in the corner? There is easement in that area. I want you to look where is exactly the land. Look at the land. It's right in the back. The front of the business of the beauty supply is taken most of it as a 56 on 56 and on the river area. Let's go more. Showing it. This is how much actually you can be able to view it and see it. How much space in front of 56. Can you be able to see it and view it? Okay, this is our project. Our project is there. You see in the area, in the back area, this is a public space. This is walking area. That retention pond, you can be able to make it as more active, put some fencing in the both sides, and it will be right behind that wall is going to be steps there down that with public area can be able to use. There is like a stage, people can be able to sing. There is some small stores, if you've seen it, 900 feet approximately. So if you look at them, you know, you can be able to view right fanting in the middle of it, so and the parking right in the front. Basically, we make a crowd in the back, not in the front, to be able to use it and to make it success. That's the most important part. To continue that business, to continue and to bring different. So it's a small businesses who can be able to afford and can be able to be survive. And I'm very sure a lot of developers, they can be able to tell you when you have a small area and a small businesses, sometimes they survive better than the big business. Once the big business, it goes out, it's very hard the little businesses to survive. So there is ice cream, there is ice cream, cell phone, hair salon, a different type of things in there, a small restaurant, you know, and big restaurant which is in the water. That big restaurant is about 5,000 square feet in the area. So you have the park right across the street from it, which is, if you have kids, it's a family oriented. If you have kids, you can be able to go to the park, take your kids, get some ice cream. If you decide to go in a big restaurant and eat, this is a good evening, you know, or you go in that area there. Let's go move and see it on more digital. This is what the front is. So basically that is kind of Mediterranean looks, you know, and at the same time is more Hispanic look at the same time. So let's see. This is what looks like from inside. Can you see that? That's what looks like from inside. So you can see the stage, view the stage, view the area. People can be able to sit outside. I mean, it has to be in that area more attractive than just bookstores. Has to be more attractive than just to be just anywhere in 56. So basically, it's a fun place if you have kids, if you are after 6, 7 o'clock in the evening, that way you can be able to go and see. So this is the fanting in the front, right in the middle. You can be able to see and view the stores, what they look like. And it's basically a square. You can be able to spend some time on it.
I got dibs.
Here's the store, what they look like. The stage, you can be able to see it. Actually, you know, I did this presentation before, so I don't want to spend another $15,000 on it. So I cut that place where he bought before, and I, you know, try to point the whole thing in there. You can be able to see where the store is going to be. One facing the road, and is going to be have both access to it. There is from the river road in there, and from 56 you can park in that area. So if you look at it, you can be able to see exactly, this is on scale. I did it when I did it on scale. Of course you have to concern what's underneath of it. This is again, I did it on scale, but I don't know what's I'm going to face in the underneath of that ground. If you go and see it in reality, you're gonna find something you're not gonna be able to expect it. So it might be sewer you're gonna move, it might be drainage water you're gonna move. So there is plenty things you probably can be able to work with it, but at the same time you can be able to make it work. So finance on those in this property is going to be paid within 30 days. There is no finance on it. he's going to come down and pay the check for it and walk out. Financially, he is very strong on it to be able to do it. If we start on it, I think I put it in there by the 21st or the 221, it'll be start the project right away. There is no place actually in the way we looked at it in a different way. There is no place actually in Temple Terrace to have similar, just to give you an idea, similar to St. Pete, similar to a little bit more. The tourists, when they come down here, they take their kids in there. They want it to place to still working, gift shop, balloon, things like that, walk around in the area. So that's what that square is going to be. What that square is going to be. So that's it. Any question?
Council? Questions? Thank you very much for your presentation.
You're welcome.
And at this point, council, I will open it up for further discussion. And is there a motion that anyone would like to entertain on our last two proposals from Tampa Investment Holdings or from the Enigma Events?
No comments? Well, I'll make
Councilman,
comments.
I'm
I
sorry.
don't have any comments, but I would like to make a motion at this
Councilman
point
Schisler.
that council move forward with the Enigma Events presentation, instructing staff to work out the fine details regarding dates and so forth, so that when we do come back for final approval, that we have something to work with, and go forward with that.
There's a motion. Is there a second? We have a second. Discussion.
I asked Mr. Berman earlier how it would happen if we wanted to have him talk to both developers to see if they could negotiate a better price. And from what I understand, we would have to turn down both bids and have them renegotiate with Mr. Berman. Is that not something that we might want to do?
We have a motion on the table to move forward with Enigma.
That's part of my discussion. I'm just asking a question before we make a vote. Yeah.
Councilman Ross.
I don't disagree with you, and I listened very intently to Mr. Chilura's views on everything when we talk about redevelopment, because it's his business. And I do believe that this selling price is low. As Mr. Chilura pointed out and Mr. Bergman pointed out, I do believe that. I don't know that I completely agree with the city completely offsetting half of the $800,000 in improvements, because as Frank says, that's value to the property too. So I don't know that however, when I weigh that against, we've been at this a long time. And I think having some leverage of having one owner own this whole, not shorefront, it's a retention pond, but the whole waterfront, and able to complete that contiguously all at the same time with the same pavers and the same railing and the same, I think there's value in that beyond. Now, could we reject this and go another couple of months and maybe get another 100,000? Maybe we could, I don't know, but we'd take us 2 or 3 months to get back here again, and I'm not sure that the candle's worth the game. And I hear what you're saying, I hear what Mr. Triller is saying, I do think the price is a little low, but I think the benefits to the city and getting some dirt turning down there is worth the 9 month, or the extra 90 days it would take to get this back again.
Councilman Schisler, and then we'll go to
I would also like to remind council that, according, now granted, these are Mr. Berman's numbers and they'd have to be verified, but even if there's any potential truth to it, an additional $25,000 to $30,000 in TIF funds over the next 15 years, and that time window keeps getting smaller and smaller. In the end, yeah, we're it's another $350,000 to $400,000 potentially in future revenues that we would be walking away from. I recognize the additional value that they're going to get, but as Councilman Ross has said, there could be one darn nice complex there that would feed off of itself and really put out a quality project that's going to be symbiotic, and it's going to be flow together, and I really think the potential there is for a nice layout.
Thank you, Councilman Schisler. Councilwoman Donahue.
I have no intention of not supporting this motion. I just felt like the question needed to be asked, just to bring it forward. So I agree. I think the continuity of the owners is a big plus. I hate to turn down a local for a project, but I agree, and I think it's exciting to know that this could be actually something that we can all be proud of and stand around and turn dirt and wear hard hats for a change.
Councilman Shalera.
Thank you. I can do math and I can count votes, so having said that, I would like to, I think that there is value that's being left out. I do agree with the comments being made. I would like to ask the maker of the motion to consider if this property is, if we do move forward with this, and this property is developed, and this portion of the property is not developed in the manner that's being presented, that property will not convey with the other two parcels. In other words, that strip that right now is city property, it's part of that retention pond, looks like they're taking out. If they decide we're not going to do it that way, we're going to do something a little different, because that's land that was not even marketed as the original purchase price. You're giving additional land to these purchasers for a much reduced price. So it's plus win-win on both sides, more land, less money. So if they do not develop this property as presented here, I'm not saying the building 2-story, 5-story, 10-story. I'm talking about the back of it,
I agree.
where they're going to
I
build
can
a
agree with
wall,
that.
and that's going to be a parking lot. They decide to add another building back there or something.
I can agree
Then
with that.
needs to be addressed from that manner. So I can go along with it.
Yeah, I can
Okay.
agree with that.
Is there any further discussion? All in favor, please signify with aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay sign. Thank you, motion carries. Congratulations. Council, next item, there was a proposed proclamation that was pulled for discussion, and I will at this point turn it over to Mr. Stevenson.
Madam Mayor, if I could kind of get you to backtrack just a little bit, if we can go back to item 9A. We really need to do a little bit more business there. We took that item off the table. I think as far as taking it off the table, we need some direction identified in the minutes as far as what you would like us to do with that item.
I thought we had received correspondence from our city attorney that 2 weeks from today, the petitioner would be back in front of us. We had originally postponed to time certain, which would have been an automatic carryover without any action being needed by this body for tonight, with the petitioner making a request for it to be 2 weeks forward. I thought the communication from our city attorney clarified that it would be 2 weeks from today.
I don't know when it's reset for. You all need to make your decision now that you've taken it off the table. What do you want to do with it? If you want it set for 2 weeks from now, that has to come from you, not from me. I believe, has this, if I can ask the clerk a question, has this been advertised already for a date in the future?
I think we're covered by
Okay.
the first ad.
So it's you have choices. Once you've taken it off the table, now it's an open issue again. You have to take some action now on it. Your action may be simply to deny the matter. You can postpone it to a date certain. You can postpone it indefinitely. You can also table it, which is indefinite as well. If you want to set it for a date certain for when the gentleman is going to be here and make a final decision on his request for annexation, you have to simply state that on the record so that we know that you've made a decision.
Is there a motion? Councilman Chambers.
Yeah, I thought in your letter you said you required 2 motions, and so this motion would be to bring this item back up at the June 18th meeting.
Is there a second? Any further discussion? All in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay sign. Oh, there was a nay.
2 nays.
2 nays. Thank you.
Right.
Are we ready to proceed?
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
I'm sorry, okay, I'm confused, I don't understand what just occurred. Okay, we just brought it back, and then we're going to not set a time
No.
certain?
Yeah, we
Because
did. We just did.
You did. So now you're going to make a decision at the next meeting.
Right.
There could have been a motion to do exactly what we did before, which was delay this until after we had more discussion, another workshop or whatever. And the reason is, I don't know about you, but I didn't feel like we really made any concrete decisions on what staff should do.
We're not to get
When they-
into the topic of the item at this point. If we can move forward on the agenda,
Well,
our item on the
sorry, I was
agenda
trying to answer his
is the proclamation that was pulled. Mr. Stevenson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We've got something of an extraordinary situation that has brewed here with this. We had the request for a certificate, a proclamation, if you would, to be presented to council, acknowledging Mother's Demand Action's request on a proclamation recognizing National Gun Violence Awareness Day. Over the weekend, over the weekend, I had the opportunity to initiate some investigation on what exactly National Awareness Day was. This is something that we've never proclaimed before. In doing that, I certainly ran into some questionable, in my mind, some questionable intent with this proclamation. Therefore, I said it, and I sent each of you an email over the weekend saying, I'm going to put this under new business so the council can decide whether or not they wanted to read this proclamation. I know that there's been some pros and cons with this proclamation. This is one of those things that the city manager shouldn't be deciding on, but certainly there is some background that goes along with Mother's Demand Action, and that's the reason I put it up for council discussion. Each of you have been given a revised proclamation, if you would, that I kind of initiated last night in order to try to find a middle ground, if you would, so that we can address the issues that are of concern to some of you, as well as be able to read the proclamation. Certainly, proclamation addresses gun violence and keeping guns out of the hands of children and people that would misuse the firearms. I don't think anybody would disagree that that is a noble cause. That being said, I am not convinced that there isn't some other underlying intent here. That's why I put it on for council to discuss. So I will leave it under council business to discuss whether or not they want to proceed with this. We've got 2 proclamations that can be read or none at all. that is council's decision, not mine. With that, I will turn it back over to council and Madam Mayor for discussion.
Council, discussion?
Yes, I definitely have. I want to say that I brought this to council because this was, we've just recently had another day when we had to fly the flags at half-mast. We've had, half-staff all across the country because of what happened in Virginia Beach. This morning, in the Tampa Times, it was reported that a gentleman mistakenly shot his girlfriend. Okay, so, awareness is the whole issue here, okay? And just like Mothers Against Drunk Driving, they're not telling people not to drink, they're asking people to drink responsibly. And so I had a conversation with Mr. Stevenson, and he tells me that he saw some nefarious background of Moms Demand Action. And so I did research as well, and nowhere on any of the websites for either Moms Demand Action, Everytown for Gun Safety, Mayors Against Illegal Drugs, there's another one, Students Demand Action. Not one of them indicated that they were trying to change or diminish the Second Amendment. Matter of fact, in talking to some people who I know are members and in listening to presentations that have been, that I've seen at Rotary Club and Women's Club, we've had group, speakers from Moms Demand Action have come and spoken to us, and every time when asked, how do you feel about the Second Amendment? They've said, it is a right of people to own and bear arms. We're not opposed to that. We are simply trying to remind people that this is a dangerous situation that we could have if we're not aware of it. Now, we all go to the vigil for MAD, and because we understand how dangerous it is to drink, to drink and drive, we all listen and stand behind Say No to Drugs. These are efforts to point out how dangerous things are. So when I had the conversation with Mr. Stevenson, he said, well, maybe the way it's written is too vague. So together we added wording to the proclamation, which I would hope would prevent anybody from thinking that this group is in that way. And I ran it by my friend who is a member of the Moms Demand Action, and she said absolutely, it fits perfectly. So I don't know what each of you have received. I don't know if you've received the new proclamation versus the old proclamation, but this is definitely something that, and I applaud us for pointing out that, human trafficking is a horrible thing for us to even have to think about, but so is gun violence. Obviously, the people who use their guns responsibly, we're all applauding that, but they're not the ones who have accidents. They're not the ones who do bad things. It's people, and like today, innocent, horrible accident, obviously they should have put the bullets in the drawer, right? So I don't know what the outcome is of that. So, I would hope that we could recognize that this is a day that, there's apparently it's either downtown Tampa or downtown St. Petersburg, there's going to be a rally, a walk of some kind. I'm not going to be participating in that, but I'm just saying that this is something that is a national effort. So I would hope that, we would allow me to present this proclamation. I don't know that anybody is here to accept it, but.
I would ask if there's comments from other members of the council on this item. We do have public comments. I was going to get comments from council first, if they would like to have. We have David Pogorelic.
Thank you, Council and Madam Mayor, and First, let me say it was very nice to hear any government body say, "Build the wall." So let me start with that. As has been alluded to, I don't think anybody in this room or anybody in the city of Temple Terrace or any city is in favor of gun violence. We're all in favor of less gun violence. But in this particular proclamation, you have to follow the money. And if you follow the money, you look at the quote orange shirts, the orange shirt movement. It has very little to do with stopping gun violence and has a lot to do with taking away the guns from law-abiding citizens and eroding our Second Amendment rights. And whether you like guns, hate guns, love guns, we should all be against disarming American citizens, and if she should be against this group and any other group's lack of transparency and be against the hidden agenda behind this particular movement. That's really all I have to say about that.
Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Gorelick. I believe Don Balabin had left. He also appeared, shared a similar concern there. I would ask if there are no other comments from... Oh, absolutely, apologies.
Good evening, Council. I just looked up the Moms Against Gun Violence, or whatever the name, I don't remember the exact name, but I Googled it. And number one, it's hard to get past, they want donations, but when you read what the donations are for, they're all for limiting gun laws. So even though, I'm not saying they're against the Second Amendment, but they're probably more for severely restricting it. So just this particular day, I would be a little concerned about a proclamation because I personally am not for restricting the Second Amendment. I am for keeping it out of the hands of criminals and definitely children, but I think we need to get to the bottom of gun violence, and I don't think the major concentration should be on restricting gun laws. I think mental health is huge, and I would like to see a day where we want to prevent mental illness, and I think that would go a long way to help prevent gun violence. And also, I'd like to see a day just to prevent all kinds of violence, not just gun violence. So I am a little concerned about a hidden agenda with this particular holiday. Thank you.
And Ms. Snelling, just for the record, if you'll state your name and city of residence.
Ellen Snelling, and I live in Temple Terrace. Been a
Very
resident
good.
for about almost 20 years.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the public that would like to speak to this item? If you'd please come to the podium.
Hi, my name is Pat Farrell, and I've been a member of this community for 30-some years. And I came because there was a Facebook notification that the council had decided to possibly remove the declaration against gun violence and to please attend. I didn't know I didn't know it was Moms Demand Action or whatever it was, but I thought, well, that was just really weird, like who is for gun violence? And when this gentleman, Mr. Stevenson, said there were nefarious, whatever your phrase was, nefarious motives or something like that, I'm sure that's not our motive. We decide our own motives. And because and I did look up Moms Demand Action, and it's political. It's a political organization. But political is how things happen in this country and in our community. We make laws, we discuss, and we decide what are we for, what are we against. I am against the horrific gun violence in this country and in all our communities. I see it all the time. I work with children. And so it would really hurt me to see that we're going to say as a community that we don't want to make a proclamation against gun violence. That makes no sense to me. No matter what political party we belong to, or if we think everybody in the world should have a bunch of guns, hopefully we're against gun violence. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to address council on this item? Councilman Ross.
Well, I was hoping to escape without talking on this because this is one of those things that everybody's already has an opinion and nobody's ever in the history of mankind changed their mind on this. So there's really no sense in debating. I do have a couple of things to say, though. First of all, as it's been said many times already, nobody is in favor of violence. Nobody says we need more violence, right? Nobody says that. You'd have to be out of your right mind to say. So there's nobody who advocates for further violence, gun violence or any other kind of violence. And nobody's nearer and dearer to that than I am. And I've spent my whole professional life trying to protect people from violence. But there is a wide schism when it comes to how we think the problem of violence should be approached. And there are those who are pro-gun, there are those who are against guns, there's a wide range of, just like the redevelopment, everybody knows what we want, but everybody's got different views about how to get there. Well, it's the same thing with reducing violence. In my opinion, there are some things that work very well that we're not even talking about. And this is my profession. I know a little bit about this, unlike most things. And so I think these groups, if you Google this, which is what I did, I mean, there's a cool thing called the internet, right? If you Google this and you look at some of the people and some of the organizations that are behind this movement, they are very openly anti-Second Amendment. Now, they don't put this on their website. You don't go to their website and say, we want to abolish the Second Amendment and take your guns. Nobody's going to put that on their website. But if you look at the legislation that they support, if you look at the legislation that's proposed by the candidates that they've supported, both at the national level and at the state level, that's exactly what they're doing. Despite what's on their website, and you got to dig a little bit, you got to follow the money a little bit, you got to see who they've backed, what PACs they have formed and donated to, and then what that politician's agenda has been in Congress or their state legislature. Nobody has any objection. We wouldn't even be having this conversation if we had a proclamation that said Temple Terrace is against gun violence or all forms of violence, domestic violence, all forms of violence, gang violence, you name it. We're against. I think everybody in this room, everybody who's listening on TV would agree, we're all against violence. If we had a proclamation, every meeting says we're against violence and we proclaim it, nobody would even be talking about that. The only reason we're talking about this is we're promoting a movement that is linked to things that many of us disagree very passionately about. And I know it's not on their website. I get that. I look too, I know. And I know the stuff that you circulated was copied and pasted because I read it too. But if you dig a little deeper and look at the people who founded this and the people, and I know there are people who disagree with me, and that's okay. I don't hate you just because you have a different approach to this, right? And I'm not going to convince you. I'm not trying to convince anybody. I think we just need to all recognize that there are different ways to try to get to this same goal. Some people think, oh, we got to take all the guns. I don't happen to think that. I think there are some I've read David Kennedy. I know about the Boston Gun Project. I know about Project Safe Neighborhoods. There are some things out there that work very well to reduce gun violence. And unfortunately, everybody's so busy calling each other Republicans and Democrats that nobody can sit down and fund the stuff that really works. It's just too easy to say, oh, we need more gun laws. The guy, Mikhail, what's his last name? The one who killed this 15-year-old girl in Chicago was an 18, Mikhail Shaw was his name. He was a gang member. He was 18 years old, a convicted felon, a career criminal at the age of 18. How illegal was it already for him to have had this gun? And Chicago, and I promise I don't want to debate the gun thing, but Chicago has more gun laws than any country, any city in the country, and they have more gang violence and more gun killings right now than ever. So I didn't mean to get into that. I apologize. If you don't agree with me, that's fine. But all I'm saying is that we all want to do this. We all want to reduce it. But promoting the agenda of a movement that I don't agree with is a problem for me, and that's the reason that I called Mr. Stevenson. And I'm okay. If you guys want to pass the revised version that puts some different language, I'm not going to raise a stink about that. It's symbolic, but I don't want to be on the Moms Demand Action website as a partner city. I don't want to be that. That doesn't represent my values. I don't promote their agenda. I don't agree with it. Now, there's 5 of us up here, 6 of us. If you guys vote me down, that's happened before. But I don't want the city council that I sit on to be on their website as a partner city for that organization. And that's just, I know we're not going to agree on this, and that's okay. I still love you.
And I wasn't going to speak to this, but I went down the rabbit trail on this organization, and it is a political action committee. If they're not registered as a PAC, they should be. When on the front page, there's a donate button, and you start going down and seeing, well, what are you funding? Are you funding mental health, as Ms. Snelling brought up? Are you funding diversion programs? Are you funding gun safety programs? Are you funding? It is absolutely, we are funding politicians. And we are funding politicians who are passing laws that are beginning to strip away our Second Amendment rights. We have never, to my knowledge, in this city, aligned ourselves with a political action committee, and I think it is a very slippery and a dangerous slope. There is not one of us that is pro-violence here. There is not one of us that is not pro-gun safety, and as Mr. Ross very articulately pointed out, we could each and every week, each and every meeting, talk about how we're against violence. This is not what it appears to be, and it didn't take me a long time. It did not take me a long time. I just got very amused with the rabbit trails and sat up Friday night until 4 o'clock in the morning on Saturday following all the rabbit trails. It is not a nice, innocuous groups of moms holding hands, singing Kumbaya and keeping their kids safe. That is not what this is about. This is about funding politicians who think in a very specific way, and it is a challenge. So I will ask council, if there's no more comments, if there is a motion or action that you'd like to take.
Well, I might as well. I move to approve the National Gun Violence Awareness Day proclamation as revised by the city manager to include verbiage that says, whereas citizen and government efforts to keep guns out of the hands of those who are likely to misuse them is not inconsistent with the Second Amendment of the United States Constitution, and whereas in support of the Second Amendment rights of law-abiding citizens, the right to bear arms goes hand in hand with keeping guns from children and dangerous people.
Is there a second?
Okay.
Motion dies for lack of a second. Is there any other new business to come before council?
Yes, go ahead.
Councilman Chambers.
I know we just voted this down, but I would like to see, to direct somebody, staff or somebody, to come up with a proclamation that says pretty much all this, but doesn't link to this group. That's my motion. I don't know who to direct it to, but that's my motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Is there any discussion? Councilman Shalera.
Yep, since we're going to be addressing violence, I'd like to see staff direct one for alcohol violence. I'd like to see them direct one for regular violence, just violence across the board. I think we've sat here, this is absolutely embarrassing. We've sat here for a half hour talking nonsense. Of course nobody wants violence with guns. And guns don't kill people, people kill people.
Amen.
You know, if you want to address it like that, alcohol kills more people than guns kill. Let's attack alcohol. Where do we stop? Where does it stop? We are sticking our nose where it doesn't belong. Nobody up here, nobody in this city is promoting violence with guns. It's very unfortunate that it happens, and we're drawing attention to it so the psychos, this empowers the psychos when they see this kind of stuff. And we're feeding into it. This is not city business. It's ridiculous. We should not be here. I will not support it. I won't support it in 2 weeks. I won't support it in a month. I support violence, but it's not an issue we need to be talking about, because if we need to talk about this issue, there's a lot of other violent issues that we need to be talking about. Thank you.
Any other discussion? No, no, ma'am. Time for public comment has ended. Any other discussion, council? All in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Motion fails. Thank you. Is there any other new business to come before council?
Yes. I met with Ronald Spoor, the Chief Operating Officer for Habitat for Humanity, on Monday, and he made a point of telling me how delightful it has been to work with the City of Temple Terrace, and especially with Andrea College. So I just wanted to give a shout out to Andrea and say that. I also I have been, have joined the advocacy committee for the League of, Florida League of Cities, and it's called Municipal Administration. And they sent out an email today asking, and I sent it to city manager and some of the directors, and Mr. Stevenson suggested I bring it to you tonight. The committee addresses municipal concerns with building and fire safety codes, code enforcement, elections, emergency management, gaming, homeland security, public meetings, public property management, public records, public safety, and procurement, as well as charter counties and special districts. And what they're looking for are topics that we've been either struggling with or think that we need to find out how are they doing it with other cities, because as you know, Mr. Schisler sits on the transportation, and Mayor Mel sits on the, I think you're on the economic development. So each of us have been asked to, at least I have been. So the deadline is June 7th. So to the directors or to any of you, if you have an issue that you would like for me to take, just shoot me an email, let me know if you have a particular item that reflects on that. And then, last but not least, sitting on the Affordable Housing Board, I've been invited to join them at the Housing Coalition in August. But I brought to the attention of the chair, and she thought it was an interesting concern. We share a seat with Plant City. So for 3 years, they have a representative from the City of Temple Terrace, and then it moves over to Plant City. So I said to them, I'm not sure that you should invest the money in me because I won't be on this board. Yeah, I think my term is up in November. So they're looking into the why are they not giving us a full seat? So on that same note, I would ask you if you have any concerns about affordable housing or any issues. I mean, there are quite a few things I would love to sit down with you and Mr. City Manager and talk about tax exemptions and some other things that are available. I know that I did talk to the chief, and he said that we used to participate in a much more fuller manner, but we're not. And so the question would be, why aren't we? So anyway, I just thought I'd bring both of those to you, since that is one of the charges I've been understood that we're supposed to be reporting on the committees we belong to. So there's my reports and questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Ross.
Just one quick thing for city manager, maybe Mr. Schisler. Could we, at an upcoming meeting, it doesn't have to be the next one, but at some point in the near future, can we just get a quick, brief update on the status of the country club in the city and payments and how things are going? Just haven't heard anything in a while, which is, I assume, is a good thing, but, I don't need a lot of depth. I'm just, are they making payments? Are they giving you the stuff they're supposed to give us and that kind of stuff? Thank you.
Thank you. Any other new business? We will go to Mr. Stevenson for the city manager's report.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just really just a couple quick items here. I'm scheduled to be out of town next week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I think it's I have to leave town on the 9th, which is Sunday, 6/9 to 6/12. I will be back in the office on June 13th, and if it's okay with council, I certainly would like to have that time off. I've got a conference that I've got to go off to. In my absence, I'm asking Mr. Tom Baroni to act as our city manager. And if anyone's got some concerns with that, I'll be more than happy to talk with you tomorrow about it.
I got a lot of concerns about that.
I fortunately talked with him before I made that comment, so. The other thing is just to kind of give you a heads up, and I hope all of you enjoyed the new truck outside. It is certainly, again, one of those capital purchases that we make and we need to make in order to keep our services top-notch. We appreciate council approving that allocation so that we can do that. It is one of those pieces of equipment that's been in dire need for at least a year, and we certainly appreciate everybody's help in doing that. Last but not least, just to kind of give you a heads up, you may hear, last meeting we had some issues with our broadcast going out. We have discovered since then that it is on the Spectrum side. It's not on our side. We have checked, our control room has gone through a check to make sure that we are in fact broadcasting out of our control room. And checking around this evening, it appears as if there's a little bit more going out there, but there still are some problems. So some of this didn't get broadcasted to some of our residents and some of the region. So I know that I'll hear about it when I get home, I'm sure. But just to let you know that problem does exist. We are, I know that Mr. Hill is continuing to work on this. He's aware of the continuing problem, but it is on their side of the wall and not ours. So just to let you know. I'm sorry? I'm all for building the wall. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
If there's no further business to come before council, we are adjourned.